Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Why I Use Blender Octane. Today we're going to be giving you 2 reasons why I like to use Octane, particularly with Blender. One is going to be the Falloff node. You can use I use the Falloff node up here to add this dust onto the monkey. I'll show you guys that little workflow really quickly. And then second is going to be off platform. I use the Otoy render network to render a lot of my stuff, and I can export out a real easy file that sends it straight over to the network. It's a really cool process. And actually, for those of you who stick around to the end, I got a little gift for you guys pertaining to the render network. Hey guys, if you don't know me, my name is Patrick LeVar. I make videos with Blender Octane, and I'm learning Octane and I'm sharing what I'm learning with you guys because there's not a lot of information about Blender Octane at the moment. If you guys are interested in that, smash the like button, consider following down here. And for those of you who really want to learn Blender Octane, I do have a free course down below in the description. Just click the link and boom, you'll go straight to the course and start working on it. But stay here for a moment, check this video out first, and then after the video, you guys can go check that out. Let's get into it. All right, guys, so we're here inside the file. This is basically what we got going here. You can see I've got the monkey head sitting on a box. Now, the whole motivation of this was literally, I just went to go download my free or claim my free scans from Quixel, right? As I was just checking things to see if they were still working, I was like, you know what? Let me just kind of quickly throw together a little quick scene. For those of you who haven't, go claim your free Quixel Megascan thing at the fab. It's easy, 1 button click, boom, and everything's there. You don't have to download everything to your hard drive. I'm glad I waited and didn't do that. I'm gonna go ahead and kill the render for a moment just so we can get in here. You notice I've got a couple of things going on here. I've got this big dust box here, which has got some particles that are floating around in the air. And then I've got my Suzanne head down here, and you can see she's like cluttered all up with these panels here, and those panels are basically the spider webs, which I'll show you guys how to do that in a minute. What I want to quickly break down for you guys is how I was able to use the Falloff material, because I got this question on Instagram. Somebody had asked me, is there a layer weight node in Octane? And I'm like, yes, there is, and we call it the Falloff node. So we quickly jump into the shading here. Here is the setup shader, which is not that complicated. I posted on Instagram how to add dust, so it's a very simple process here. This is how I did it. There's many other ways to do this, guys. There's not one set way. Here I have my material, my universal material. And then what I did was I took that universal material and I brought in a grayscale gorilla dust map, or you can get these on the internet for free pretty much anywhere. This is the dust material, right? And then what I do is in Octane now, we do have these color mix node, which is it's an Octane version of a color mix node, basically a wrapper, we call it. See here, Octane color mix node wrapper. Let me plug this back into the albedo like that. Boom. What I've done is I'm mixing that here, and this is controlling my base bottom color here of my Suzanne head, right? And then on here, on top here is the Falloff node. So if I quickly just take the Falloff node and plug it into Suzanne, here you can see what's happening is like we've got this discoloration here. Let me go ahead and plug it into the color ramp so I can really clamp its values and show you what it's doing. And I'll go ahead and plug that into there, and there it is. That is how it's affecting. And again, what's very powerful about the Falloff map here, by default it comes in as this, as your normal eye ray. So like, you know, you're catching it at a glancing blow. There it is. There is the eye ray effect kind of happening there. Right. Then I switch it to, you can go 190, so it's like on 190, or you can go 180. So I selected to go 180, and that's how I'm able to use it as a mask. Black conceal, white reveals. So I'm using that as a mask, and I could also control that right here. I got more controls with that. I can use this here. And then I also do have my minimum value and my maximum value, and then this Falloff skew factor allows you just to kind of like really get in there and dial that in. Small commercial break. If you're getting any value out of this video, guys, smash that like button for me. And as a gift for smashing that like button, you can jump over to my Gumroad. I've got all of this free stuff here for Blender Octane. Materials, little plugins and things that I've been working on, like this little geo drop generator for Octane Blender. And again, I've got just assets that I've made from different projects. I put them all on this Gumroad. Actually everything on here is free except these 2 little VFX courses. Everything else is free, guys. I got a free Blender Octane startup file, which you just download. This helps you get startup. The settings and everything is all set up. You just pop the file in and you're ready to go. If you're interested in that, take a look at the Gumroad. Lots of free stuff. And if you're really serious and you want to go hardcore, take a look at my Blender Octane School community right now. For the next week, I'm going to be taking $5 off. So it is $10. Normally costs $15 to get in a month. This is $10 straight up. Or if you want to pay annual, that option has just been added. So take a look. We got material assets. You can come in here And I got a big material asset library that is constantly growing. You can have access to it. We got node setups, one-on-one with me, whatever you guys need, community help. This is where it's at. Blender Octane. Back to the video. Enough of my jam. So what I've done is I pumped that through this color ramp, again, using the color ramp or gradient map, I should say. That gives me more control so I can really start to, you know, compress and, you know, contrast my values a little bit. And then I pump that into the factor of this color ramp. And then if I plug that into here, this is what's happening. You can basically see, then you can come here, take the black values, make it more stronger, make it more, you know, that's pretty much how I'm really setting that up. It's not that complicated. And again, there's many different ways to do that. A big seam right there on the top of the head, but hey, it doesn't show up in the render, so don't worry about it. Then what I did was I took that and pumped it into another color ramp and plugged it into the glossiness, because if you didn't, this is what it looks like. And it's like, okay, if it's dusty, why is it so shiny, right? So again, taking that value, plugging it into the roughness value here, and then using this another gradient map to give me even more finer control of how I want the roughness to appear. If I want, you know, I didn't want it to be too dull, but I did want to have it just a little bit of a glint. Okay, so that is how I set up the dust fall off material using the Falloff map here and a dust texture image. Okay, I also ended up using that on my box here. So I got the box here. If we isolate this box here, I've got the dust on top. Pretty much the same procedures. This is coming from Quixel. Quixel's all PBR materials, so it works out really easy to set materials up. If you know how to bring in procedural materials in Octane, in cycles, you know how to do it in Octane. It's the same thing. It's no difference, right? What I also did was I took that same setup, copy pasted it, brought it over here, and now I've got the dust on top. Again, I just changed up a little bit of the settings here, and then I added a little bit of color, which I did this time. I added a color ramp in between the actual texture so I can color it. And I just wanted to give it a little bit more of a dingy color here on the top here. So again, if I unplug that and go back into the vector, see, there it is. It was just like too bright, too white for me. So what I wanted to do was just to knock that down and kind of like, you know, dust kind of takes on the color of the object sometimes a little bit. So that just made it a little bit more subtle. So that's basically how I did the Falloff. Now let's look at how I did the spider webs. All right, guys, so I've got a new fresh scene here for the spider web setup because I want to show you guys this because this is a really cool setup. Now, I got to give props where props are due. I found this on I think, 8-year-old. Let me show you. Guys, this was a 9-year-old video from the master himself, Gleb Alexandrov. I basically quickly Googled how to make spider webs. His video popped up and I was like, boom, I'm watching it. So this, I got to give props. This is where I learned out how to do this. Take a look at his video. Also, this is where I get the actual texture that he's using. You can download that, go to his website, just check out his video, get all that stuff there. I'm going to quickly show you the process here. First thing first here, what we're going to do is just bring in a plane. And then what I'm going to do is pop over here and I'm going to add in a new material. And now I'm going to drag the texture that Gleb offers, that he offers from his website. But you can also just go and search spiderweb textures. I did find one place called Resource Boy, and there was like 200 plus spiderweb textures. Right here at this site here, Resource Boards, spiderweb textures. Guys, there's like 200. There's like a whole bunch of them, right? So the 200 spiderweb textures, but you can do that, or you can use the one that Gleb has. I'm going to add in a grayscale image because I don't need it to be colored because it saves memory on my GPU. And I'm gonna go ahead and load the file in. All right, so I've got the file. I'm gonna go ahead and plug the file into the albedo. And then what I'm also going to do here, I'm going to add in, matter of fact, I probably don't need to do it. Let's just go ahead and do it this way. Let's go ahead and fire up the render and see what we've got here. This is the actual image. You can see what it is. It's got like 6 basically different textures on it, which makes it really nice. So from here, what I'm going to do is plug this also into the opacity. If I go ahead and right click down here, I'm going to plug that into the opacity. And now we don't see anything. I'm going to grab my bottom layer here that I've got this texture here, and I'm going to actually throw a texture on that just so we can see a little bit better. Now you can see there are our spider webs, okay? So it's very easy. From here, what I'm going to do is jump into the UV editor. I'm going to come here and I'm going to just basically unwrap this. I'm going to go to U and I'm just going to go unwrap. Then I'm going to bring up that image here in my image editor. And then what I'm going to do is come over here, select, and I'm just going to scale this down and I'm going to select one of the webs that I want to use. We'll say we'll use this one here. Jump back out. Let's go back into render mode. All right, and there is the web that I have isolated, okay? Then from here, what we're going to do is go into face mode and we're gonna subdivide this. I'm gonna put a bunch of cuts like this here, just like that. And then what we're gonna do is grab one of these edges, turn on proportional editing and go GZ. And I'm just gonna kind of like give it like, you know, some bowness to it, just kind of like texture. There we go, something like this, just giving it a little bit of shape, okay? And then from there, we're gonna add a subdivision on there. I've just pressed Control 2, just add a level 2 version of subdivision on that. There is our spider web. Now what we need to do is just go ahead and put that in position. And I'm gonna go ahead and shade that smooth. Now for those of you who do use Blender Octane and you do have the Octane Tools add-on, it is kind of broken, like it's not converting materials, but I still use it for this reason here. Check it out. If I come back over here and I turn off my render, and if I come over here and go to texture in the viewport, and then I come back, click on the image, and then I'm going to press I, and then boom, it's going to add in the image. So I'm still using it for this reason, because this really helps out with our material preview, right? Okay, so now what we're going to do is I'm just going to scale this down, and I'm going to kind of just put this in position, right? Just kind of like, this is where we start to play and just kind of line it up and be artistic and just have fun. All right, so I just kind of threw a couple of these in position here, and then let's go ahead and render this here to see what we got. And now, there it is, guys. This is how you get this little like spider webby looks here. And it's very subtle, right? It's very subtle. You got to get the light to catch it just right, but you can see it there. And that's how I did it. And then the mood and the light. And then if you also want, what you can also do is add a color ramp in between here. Add a gradient map, throw that up there. And then you can use this to clamp your values a little bit here if you guys really want, and start to kind of play with it like that. And that's pretty much how I was able to get the spider webs going here. So now with a little bit of moody lighting here and a little bit the dust and the spider webs, it just sets off really nice. Then what I also did here, there was a little bit of stuff that you didn't see here. I do have a couple of dust planes here, which are like just basically planes, or actually I think I took the planes out. Did I turn those off? I think I did. Actually, here they are. I have two other planes here also, which is just an image on here. And I use this also just to add a little bit more dust that's in the shot. And like, you're not even going to be able to pick this up, but you can see that little bit of sparkle. I don't know if that's showing up on YouTube, but that is it basically. I'm going to come in here and quickly show you guys what the texture looked like. And here it is. I mean, it's so faint and so hard to see, but if I get really close, they're just little speckles. And I also used the same technique on this. I just literally ran it into the albedo, and then I go ahead and plug it into the opacity, and then boom, all we get, if you look down here, we got just these little bit of specks of dust. It's a quick, easy way to do it without having to do a particle system. It really helps. But I also did do a particle system also on this here. If we look at the particle system, it's just a big dust box that I've actually got from Ian Hubert. I use on one of his assets here, and it's just a dust box that was converted for cycles, and I just reconverted it over to Octane to get it to work. And then lighting wise, here I've got this warm light here bouncing straight down into the corner there. And then I've got this cool light coming over here from the side. On top of that, I've got the HDRI. I think I've got it kind of low, well, 0.9. It's just enough to add a little bit of light in there. I didn't want it to be too saturated with color, but just trying to get kind of a moody look. So once I've had all of this here, I also use Ian Hubert's Shakeify add-on here, which is free. And I added that to my camera. So if I go here and show you quickly, if I hit play, it's just a nice little subtle movement, right? Because it was just going to be a stock image, a stock shot, right? I didn't want to do any movement, but just a little bit of handheld feel. From here, the next point that I like about using Octane and the render network, I take this whole file, once I'm all ready, I set everything up like I'm going to do. And matter of fact, I'll render out one frame just to find out how long it's going to take. And it was taking roughly about, with all the dust and particles, it was taking about a minute a frame. At how many samples was I using? I think I was using 1,000 samples. I was using 1,000 samples. It was taking a minute a frame. And you can see here are my render setup right here. 12 on the diffuse, 12 on the specular, 12 on the scatter. And then what I did was I export this file out as, if I come over to File, Export, down here, I export it out as an Octane Octane Orbx file, ORBX file. After it does that, takes less than a minute. It depends on the spot, your file size, and how much animation stuff you got going on, but it rendered out in less than a minute for me. Once I've done that, now for those of you guys who stayed this far to the rendering, I'm talking about the render network here. Luckily, the guys down at the Render Network Foundation have given me the option to give you guys some free credits. Check it out. Try for free, get 30 in free credits, enough for 300 frames or 30 seconds of an animation, depending on your project. Go ahead and drop your email down there to claim your free credits. Once I've got my file here in Octane already and I exported out that Orbx file, I will jump over to the Render Network, come inside of here, log in, get your stuff set up, make sure you got your account open and proper, right? Then I'm going to come into this page here, and what I'm going to do from here is I'm going to upload my file to the network, and it's very easy. What I'm going to do is click on this, and then I'm going to go to Scene. Over here from Scene, I'm going to just basically drag my file in here or click on it. It says here, you can drag and drop up to 10 files in here. So I'm going to go ahead and just quickly navigate to my file. All right, so once my file is done and uploaded, it's going to leave me with this thing right here. It's the file name. Here is pretty much everything ready to go. And what I want to do is create a job. So I'm going to go ahead and hit create a job. And from there, here is our first section. Here we are in render settings. I want to configure my render settings. Now, I set up most of this stuff in Octane already, so it pretty much knows most of it, okay? So first of all, I leave all of this stuff stock. I don't change any of this. Here's my render target, my samples. I want 1000 samples. If you want to change that, you can change your samples there. I'm going to choose HD. It's 1920 by HD. That was my setup file. That's what I had set up in my Blender file. And then when it says over here, I want to render all frames. In the beginning, I do not do render all frames. I go render the first 10 frames, because if there's something not right, you don't want to waste all your credits right now and then you're done. Just render 10 frames to check your file, see if things are working. If everything's proper, then we'll render from frame 11 on till the end, or however long your animation is. So please do first 10 frames. Once we've got that set up, I'm going to go ahead and click on show advanced options. And for me, I did set up some render passes inside of Blender in Octane. Do want to have an enabled RTX running, and then all of this stuff was set by default because I set it up in my file prior, right? 24 frames. That's everything is fine. Okay, so you don't really need to change that if you don't use any of that. Don't worry about that. Let's go on to the next section. Selecting our output. At least one output must be selected prior to creating your job. So for me, I always export out EXRs. 16-bit EXRs compression. I want it to be DWA, which can be smaller than a PNG file at times. My color space is going to be linear RGB. You can choose one of these other ones. You even got ACES CG right there. That's awesome, right? But I'm going to keep it linear sRGB. Since I have multiple passes, I don't want individual files. I don't want denoise files, depth map files, zdep. I don't want all that. I want it to be a multi-layer EXR. I want it to be one file. DaVinci Resolve, I will select my passes. So I'm going to go ahead and click here, multi-layer. Then after that, I don't change any of that stuff, and I don't change any of this. I leave this all here. If you do know what this is all about, configuring your output file names, this is where you would change it. If you're a beginner, leave it alone, right? So that's pretty much it for my EXR settings and everything else. Here's your PNGs, but come on, guys, come on. If you're using Octane, you don't want to be wasting your time on PNGs. You're losing quality, right? Let's go down to setting up our network. So from here, now we're going to choose our tier, right? Now, if you look here, tier selections affects render assignment, speed, price, and MPI, blah, 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 blah. I don't know what that means. But anyways, price ranging from 0 to 800 OBH per render credit. So what was happening, you got basically your 300, or once you activate it, it'll tell you how many you have. I typically always use economy. I'm not really doing any major big stuff, time constrained stuff that's requiring me to have to render out it really fast for increased speed, or because my scene is really heavy or large. I don't want to bog up the network on my little bit of stuff. So I typically always use economy. Now, economy here, we see that our power is less and the availability is less. Guys, this thing took me on my laptop, on my computer, it took me about 4 hours to render. And typically I do all my rendering at night. 4 hours to render. Even by me still using economy, it's not going to be that long. It'll probably be like less than 10 minutes. We'll find out. We'll time it after this. I'm going to use economy. I recommend using economy, especially if you're using your free credits. We want to milk those credits till the end, right? Here it is. We're going to use economy tier and economy render solution for users without a time pressure or a heavy scene. That's me. Then selecting our payment type, this is where you'll choose your payment type of you're using credits or if you're using tokens. This select frame approval method, I choose manually review frames. I want to see the frames before they are done and before everything is finished. Okay, I want to check them to see if they're right. Then we have this other section down here. I do not mess with it. I messed with it once and my render came out like crap. So I just leave this stock. Okay, this has to do something with minimum node VRAM. I don't know. Leave it alone. Leave it at default. Now we're going to go over to estimate cost. That's why I said we need to render one frame before you come over here, so you know how long it's taking to render. This will give you a calculating time and how much it's going to cost. So like I said, it was taking me about a minute to render. It was literally like almost a minute and 20 seconds, right? You can select seconds, hours, or minutes. 1.2. It's going to cost me right now at economy, it's going to cost me 0.24 render credits to render these 10 frames. Okay, guys, remember we're only rendered 10 frames. And then if I was to go to the priority tier, the higher tier, it's basically almost double. Look, yeah, it's 48.48 credits for 10 frames. So estimating costs, 2.4 credits. Okay, remember that we're only doing 10 frames. Now, just for the sake of it, I'm going to back up and I'm going to go all the way back to the output. Let's say we did our 10 frames and they look good. How much is it going to cost me to do 250 frames? I'm going to go all frames, 249 because they count 0. So 250 cost to estimation economy. So it's going to be a total of 6 credits. Not bad, right? Again, at economy, check it out. 12 credits, double if you're going to use priority. You want double the speed, you want double the power, double the price. But I'm going to go back to my 10 just so I can get my settings right and make sure everything is the way we want it before we get out of there. Now, there's one other thing we need to do. You need to benchmark your Octane, you need to benchmark your card. Now, how do we benchmark your card? Here's Octane Benchmark uses this to compare the power of different machines. If you don't know how to do that, right here, download this to calculate your score. You'll download it. It's a free software that Octane uses to basically judge your GPU and give you a ranking. And then it puts that ranking in a database, so it keeps, an average of what, a 1050 Ti is going to be compared to a 4090 and a 4080 Supra. And then it'll give you a score. My benchmark score is 960. I plug that in here, and then that helps us to calculate how much it's going to cost. It's going to cost me 0.24 render credits. So after that, I go ahead and hit create job. Now I'm going to come back over here to jobs. So after I click jobs, it's going to send me back after you hit that button, it's going to send you back to the jobs panel. And here we can see it's going in its processing. So what was going to happen here, if we show frame process, here are my 10 frames. Here it'll be gray when it's in progress. 0 means it needs review. Green means you have accepted it. And then here are queued for retry, meaning something happened and it's trying to recharge or re-access another GPU. I'm going to go ahead and hit the timer right now. It is 1:39. Let me go ahead and hit the timer. All right, guys, so boom, this took roughly about 9 minutes and 20 seconds. Now we will go through and improve our frames here. So you can preview, if you click on this here, we can actually take a quick preview of our frame here. And my first frame, again, was out of focus because I had some animation on the depth of field on the focus and everything. You can also basically scroll through your frames here. And again, it's based on your internet speed. So if you got slow internet speed, it's going to, be slow. I have fairly quick internet speed here, so I'm able to go through my frames here. And then you can accept your frames here or re-render a frame if you need to. Now I'm going to go ahead and review all frames. That brings you here to this page and you can look at all your frames there. Then you can also, if I come here and go back, I can play my animation. It's kind of like a crude version, like a low resolution. You can actually see, yes, my camera depth of field is being animated there. From here, if you like what you see, I'm going to go ahead and improve all. So now all my frames are approved. Now I want to download my frames. Now to download your frames, we're going to click on the download button. And then it's going to prompt you that you're going to need, here's all the stuff that I want to download. I do want to download all of this again. And here's my frame range is going to be all from 0 to 9. Download select configuration. It's going to download it wherever you have your file saved to download. I typically go into my Google Chrome and I'll come in here to settings and then I'll go to downloads and I basically would change it to my destination where my project is. And then I'll save it into a folder there. And then from there, I literally would just go hit download all. Here, it's going to prompt you again to do the same thing I just told you. Go to your Chrome settings and change it to your blah, blah, blah. Follow along with here and you can scroll down automatic downloads and whatever. I hit begin. And then here in the top right behind me, which I'm blocking, it's downloading right now. There's 6 frames, 7 frames. They're populating right there on the bottom there. Whoop. My files are downloading. All right, boom, there's my 10. And then for me, I use DIV, I forgot what it's called. I double click on this EXR. There it is. There's my 10 frames. They look great. And now what you want to do to render out everything is you basically go back to your jobs and you just go through the same process. Actually, sorry, scene. Go back to your scene and it remembers all my settings. And then I just go ahead and hit create job. Everything is still saved. This time we want all frames. Select your output. Go through that whole process one more time and then boom, render out all of your frames. That's how we use the RenderNet. And I've been using this thing like, whoo, man, like I love it. I absolutely love it. Accelerates your 3D rendering. Try Render Network for free. You only one step away from transforming your workflow. Whether you're using Blender, Octane, C4D, Houdini, or Unreal, we'll help you cut your render times down by 90%. Once a month, I will stop buying Starbucks for 1 month and save up $50 and dump $50 worth of credit on this. So it's like $50 worth of Starbucks or $50 worth of render credits. You take the pick.